Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kelvin, your host of Situations, the podcast.
And I'm your co-host, Miss Deanna. What's up, y'all?
How everybody doing today? I hope everybody having a pleasant Sunday. As you can see, we have our co-host back. She's feeling a lot better. And
Yes.
you know what at this time I would like for you guys to show her a little love and let her know that you guys did miss her. Okay. So today we got another amazing episode lined up for you guys. And we also have a clip that we're gonna be showing you guys to support what it is that we're gonna be talking about today. Okay. So today's title is Are we healing from broken homes or are we just surviving them? Okay. How do you feel about that, Deanna?
I think it's a very good topic to talk about.
Okay. So, but before we get started, let me give it a proper intro. Okay.
Okay.
What if I told you your family didn't fall apart, but it was never put together? What if the dysfunction you're running from has always been there, just dressed up as tradition, loyal, and silence? In this episode of Situation the Podcast, we're breaking open a truth. We're breaking open a truth that most families would rather bury. Some families wasn't even broken. Some families weren't broken. They were never built. Today we're talking generational trauma, emotional neglect, fake loyalty, and why so many of us choose peace over blood. This conversation is about blame. It's about truth. Freedom that comes when you stop pretending everything is okay. If you ever felt like the black sheep or the outcast of the family, the one who just doesn't fit in, this episode is for you. Okay. So you ready, Fiona?
I'm ready.
All right, let's get into it. So we're going to be talking about dysfunctional families and broken homes and things of that nature today. So my first question to you
Okay.
is, what does it mean when family, let me repeat this. What does it mean when they say family didn't fall apart, it was never put together?
It means exactly what he was saying, and I can relate to it.
Okay.
When I was growing up, my mom had a drug addiction problem, and my dad really wasn't in my life.
Okay.
So how could I ever say it was built? It wasn't never. It wasn't never built. It didn't fall apart. It wasn't never built.
Right. So how did that make you feel as a young adult growing up experiencing these type of traumas?
It made me feel abandoned because I was wondering, like, why wasn't they there for me? Like, I wanted them to be there. They were the parents. I was a good kid. I did my chores. I went to school. I was in extracurricular activities and stuff like that, and nobody was really showing up for me.
Okay.
But it was like my outlet too, so it still was a blessing. And I mean, I love my mom very much. I'm not saying she wasn't ever there, but it was a lot of times that I wanted her to be there that she wasn't,
Right.
and my dad too. And I got a chance to talk to both of them.
Did that conversation help?
It did because as much as we would like to place the blame and stuff like that and say they dropped the ball, you have to look at the time and place where they were in their age and and what was going on in their lives and stuff like that too. And then that's how you'll start having more grace, you know what I'm saying, and compassion for your parents. I'm
Okay.
not saying it's right what they did, but you start to understand it a little better.
Right. So let me say this. How does generational trauma disguise itself as
Hmm.
being normal?
Because everybody do it and just and that's what it's called. Like, um, I was watching my siblings at 8 years old, and my mom was like, "Well, I had to watch my siblings. What the hell that got to do with me? Like,
Right.
the generational trauma and all that stops when you choose to do something differently, when you say I'm gonna make a change. And that's what I was trying to do when I had my kids.
So,
But I do be feeling like if things were differently, maybe my, that the start of my life would have been differently.
right. So why do you think some people feel more connected to their friends than their own blood relatives?
Because they find a safe place in their friends. They could talk to them about anything. It don't have to be just, it's like, it was, oh, well, that's your blood, so anything goes. They sweep everything up under the rug.
Right,
Molestation in the family, toxic drama in the family, fighting in the family, stealing in the family. Everybody, that's your uncle, don't do that, or that's your brother, don't do that, or you still supposed to show up at family dinner and something very traumatic just happened to you. That ain't cool.
right, absolutely. But see, sometimes you got to realize too that you know just because that's your DNA, that don't necessarily mean that you can't find that support system outside of your DNA. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely. And it helps even more when you want stuff to change. That's
right.
what I wanted.
So, can a family be intact but emotionally broken? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Cause all the core values and everything, how the household running, standing as a family unit, all that could be together. But then emotionally dysfunction because yeah, the parents taking care of all the bills, but they never there for you.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? Like they never spend time to you, they never listen to you, you don't have a voice. And then they expect you to be a model child.
right,
Well, go
right,
to school and get straight A's and this and that or whatever. But then the child is feeling empty inside. It's like the straight A's ain't giving me love.
right. Because I do know a household can have both parents and still lack emotional stability, love, or
Absolutely.
communication. So I absolutely agree with you with that.
Absolutely.
You know, so
Absolutely.
so does roles. So let me ask you this: what roles does silence play in keeping broken families the dynamic alive?
It plays the role of, even if you know something is wrong or you feel like it's wrong, if you don't know how to articulate your feelings well, or even if you do, because nobody's choosing to address the elephant in the room,
Right,
it's like you basically living in a screen box. Like, and nothing changes. So the silence just makes it harder. It makes the problem louder. It makes the suffering longer.
right, absolutely. So that old cliche, what happens in the house stays in the house. Does that hurt more than it really helps?
Yeah,
Right.
of
So, because
course it
sometimes you
does.
have to you have to talk to somebody other than your family to let off some of that steam and to
Yeah,
let off some of that that that,
yep,
that, that that trauma that you may be going through or experiencing. So,
absolutely.
right, I think it makes sense. Um, let me ask you this: do Black families in particular
Hmm.
carry unbroken burdens that contribute to emotional disconnect?
Do they carry unbroken burdens or broken burdens?
Do Black families in particular carry? Oh, let me rephrase this. Do Black families in particular carry burdens that contribute to emotional disconnect?
Absolutely. Because, like what my mom's saying, I had to watch, my siblings, or I had to do something when I was younger. She never took the time to hear from that, or maybe she didn't get it. Maybe she addressed it to her mom, but she didn't get nowhere with that. But she didn't speak to nobody else outside of it, and him to be able to let it go. So then, when it came time for me, the way she said it to me, like it was okay. And then I started feeling some type of way. You see what I'm saying? It was like,
Right. Right.
no, like why I'm asking her like why doesn't it change with you? Why do we have to continue this tradition?
Right. That cycle, you know. And it sounded like to me
Yeah,
what she was doing was passing it down. The same tradition and the same
right.
cycle that she went through. I guess she was trying to teach you that same
Yeah.
progress. That's what it sounded like to me.
And I'm like, that's not right.
Right.
So right for me, it was like, nah, that's not right.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying no. I'm not. I agree. I
I
totally agree
still
with
had
you.
to do it.
All right. I agree with you
Yeah.
100%. You know, at what point
Hmm.
do we break those chains? You
Right.
know, at some point it has to change. You can't keep carrying that same old
Right.
tradition. You know, so
Right.
your mother brought it to you. So now what she wants you to instill that into you for you to instill it into your kids? No, that's not how it's supposed to.
Right.
At some point we got to break the curse. You
Right.
know, at some
And then
point.
sometimes they never get broken. And everybody just, well, this is how we do. You know how when they say, well, diabetes running my family. No, diabetes is a disease, or whatever the factors are of you getting it.
Right.
But if everybody cooking chitlins, if everybody eating everything the same way, these traditional Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners and all this stuff or whatever, then of course there's a more likely chance that more people in the family gonna have diabetes than not.
Right.
But it was some things that was cooked in my family, but then I ate a different type of way. So I'm 10 pounds more than my high school weight, and that's it.
Right.
I've had two children, and I've been around other people who would say those same factors. Well, I have two kids and this and that or whatever, and then they looking at me like something wrong with me. But I have portion control when I eat. I never really ate meat ever since I was a little girl, like starting from 2 years old on up. And that's just kind of been in my DNA and my lifestyle my whole life. Like if they said we didn't have no more meat, I would be fine without it.
Okay.
But if everybody else in the family is eating the chitlins or the red meat or whatever else they're eating, and everybody got diabetes and I don't, then you know why.
So, do you think survival mistaken for strength in dysfunctional families?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because what do they say? Oh, you so strong. And somebody said to me, I said, that's not no damn compliment.
Right. Right. Right.
It's not. Strong is not a compliment. Strong means you endured things that you were
Right.
faced with in that particular moment, and you just had to what you gonna do or die.
Right. Absolutely.
You gonna step up to the plate or you gonna fall.
You're absolutely 100% correct with that. So why do you think so many people are estranged from their families today?
Because the family don't want to sit down and learn something new. They're fine with how whatever cycles not being broken or the tradition of things that they have created. They've become complacent with that, and it's always that one or two out of there like, no, I'm finna go over here. I'm finna try this, or sometimes when things before and people like, oh, that's a scam. It ain't. No, y'all just so used to doing everything this particular way
Right.
that it's so impossible that another way could work. It's not a
Right.
scam.
Right.
Try it and find out to see if it is or it's not. Try something different.
And that's the problem. A lot of people are scared to try something different. That's the problem right there. They
Right.
see it. They're
And
afraid.
so it is. It is. And what they do, they project their stuff on you. When I say, if I said I want to be president, you can't do that. Who said it?
Right.
Well, we ain't never did this and this. Y'all ain't doing it. But my mindset is I can do whatever I want to do.
Right. So, with that being said, do you think love exists without accountability in a family?
Absolutely. Because I could say they do love you, but if they don't know no better, they could only love you at the capacity of where they're at. If they only been taught something up until 8 years old or 10 years old, and they never, took the time out to themselves to hold themselves accountable, to learn some new things, to continue to grow, to expand their mind, to expand their scope outside of what they was taught, then you looking at a grown person, but they're really loving you from an 8-year-old standpoint.
Okay.
And they had been stuck in survival mode from there on out.
Right. Okay. Well, what I'm gonna do at this time, we're gonna we're gonna run the clip
Okay.
that kind of support what we're talking about today, and then
Mm-hmm.
that way, um, you guys can have a better understanding of where we're coming from, and then after the clip, Deanna, we can resume and we can talk about what we just witnessed.
Okay.
They raised themselves, then blamed themselves for what they became. Some pushed out before 18, told to go start a life that nobody prepared them for. Some got pushed off to other family members like a problem to be managed. Others watched their only parent choose a new partner and move them down the priority list. And the others, if they got to make it to 18, they weren't celebrated, they were evicted. Because you're grown now. But here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The cutoff was not love, it's tradition. A generational pattern masked as tough love. I went through it so you can go through it too. Advertised as if it's building strength, but it's really inherited neglect. So now they're sent into the world with childlike wounds, reactive, avoidant, and emotionally stuck. And that's the fallout. People walking around with grown bodies stuck in childhood pain. Unable to regulate, unable to trust, and unable to fully show up. Because they never got to be just kids. Rushed into survival, not raised into stability. Only to age each year, running from the inner child that they're unconsciously parenting the same way they were wounded. Still following the script the family dynamic wrote in their nervous system.
Okay. After witnessing that clip, what do you have to say about that?
I agree with everything he's saying, and everything he said I experienced.
Okay.
Every single point he made, I experienced everything, single one. And
Okay.
so with my two daughters, I put them, pay for daycare, charter school, and private high school. I talked them about, talk to them about credit. I got them bank accounts earlier that I had to co-sign for. I wasn't taught none of this stuff. I learned
Right.
how to do my own taxes. I started cooking Christmas and Thanksgiving dinners because my family was always eating late. And that'd be a tradition around a whole bunch of households. You sit around all day nibbling on stuff. The men are watching the game, that this and that, the ladies cooking in the kitchen, whatever. I start the day before and I'm making 8, 10 hour, I mean, all these side dishes and turkey and ham and pot roast and, potato salad and greens and, banana pudding and cheesecakes. I'm talking about I do everything myself. I do all the cheesecakes and the desserts the day before. I prep and cut all my onions and bell peppers and all that stuff like that. I slow cook the meat overnight. When I get up, I'm making turkey masticholi, finishing off the greens, making the macaroni fresh and stuff like that, the potato salad, put the dressing together, and the dinner is ready at 12:30
Okay.
in the afternoon. I don't play around. When they was eating dinner at 10 o'clock at night, I got on the phone one time. I was so upset. I said, "How you make this? How you make this? How you make this?" Over the phone, and I've been making it ever since. Tweaking it, messed up some stuff, was throwing whole pots of stuff away, but I didn't want to quit. I enjoy, and then I started creating my own tradition, shrimp and grits. It don't have to be just turkey and ham and all that stuff, whatever, because I don't hardly eat that or whatever. So I just started cooking everything that I like. And I still
Right.
made some things like when my friends came over. At one point, everybody was coming to my house to eat. I was always cooking. So you can create the life that you want or the family that you want, whether it's blood or not. And I just started adapting, new habits and stuff like that I wanted. And I also sat down, I wrote my younger self a 5-page letter. I apologized to her for everything that I endured that was beyond our control. I told her that I was going to protect her. I told her we were going to take more risk, and I told her that I was going to show up for her. And I promised her we was going to finish the journey that we started, which me, finishing the book that I'm writing about my life, the ugly truth behind a pretty face, figuring out what I want to do with this makeup, this fashion and stuff. And, besides the health stuff that I'm dealing with this pneumonia, trying to get my voice back so I can, get back to my music or singing in some capacity or whatever. So I took accountability. I did the work, I journaled everything like that. I talked to someone, about the inner child in me. And no matter what I go through, like I laugh every day. I do things that, a child would do. Like I go get ice cream. I dance, I laugh. I hang out with my friends, like I still walk around with that joy in my heart. So I'm not looking for a man or anything to rescue me. I have a faith, whatever. So it's like God, Jesus saved me, and I'm rescuing my own self. Like I'm not looking for nobody to come save and rescue me. So that's what I did. I wrote my younger self a 5-page letter, and I promised her, and I'm holding myself accountable to, you know, I'm not going to let her down. So that's how I become a complete grown woman because I'm going back to rescue my own self.
Right. So is it safe to say that you definitely the cycle breaker in your family?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. All right. I mean, because at some point it has to stop somewhere.
absolutely.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Looking to boost your brand? Advertise with Situations, the podcast where real life stories meet real time conversations. Reach engaged listeners and grow your business today.
Okay. Let me ask you this: how does
hmm
unresolved childhood pain affect adult relationships?
Because if you don't even take the time to respect yourself enough to know and be honest with yourself to acknowledge that you have some issues that you need to work through, they're going to show up. If you got daddy issues and he wasn't there, whatever, now every man you meet, you looking for them to be your daddy.
Yeah.
And somebody had told me that, and I'm like, that's not true. I'm not looking for you to be my daddy because I already made peace with that, and I had a conversation with him. What I'm looking for you to be is a man. I'm
Right.
looking for the masculine characteristics that I don't have as a woman to show up and provide a safe space for me. I'm not looking for a daddy.
Okay.
So I do believe that when you have those, issues, like if you grew up in a household where they were stealing, now you don't trust nobody. If everybody told you lies, you don't trust nobody. You got trust issues or whatever. I try to make female friends. I be nice to people and cordial and stuff like that. I'm just a cool person, but people will look at me and think I'm standoffish and say, "Oh, she's stuck up and she thinks she to herself or whatever." Y'all looking at me today now, I look nice. I have a $30 wig on. I do my own makeup. I style myself. I do my own manicure. Um, when I was younger, I've been working since I was 14 years old. And I would go to the hair salon and stuff like that. They would mess it up. I got tired of people, giving people my money when I gave them. I have specific visions in my head on how I want to look from head to
Right.
toe. And if I'm paying you for a service, then that's the service I want. I didn't ever get that. So guess what? God blessed me with all these different gifts I got, and I just honed in on them. I know how to do everything myself because somebody mistreated me in doing them, and I wanted it done differently. And so now when I do it for others, guess what? I'm leading with love and tender care and great customer service.
Right.
I got audited 7 times by the IRS. I learned how to do my own taxes. I want to help, creating a LLC and stuff like that. Nobody wanted to help me. I figured it out on my own. Life is about experiences, trial and error. Give yourself some grace and try it. If you mess up, you can't get it right because it's something new to you. Just keep trying it.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So, what's the difference between protecting your peace and being disrespectful to your family?
They're gonna say it's disrespectful no matter what because that's not what they want, and you are gravitating towards a different direction other than what they want you to do.
Right.
People love when you are people pleasing, and that was something I had to learn too. I wanted to make everybody around me happy, and I just thought that's what God wanted. If you're in a position to help others or to love them or to pour into them or whatever, you do it or whatever. But he's like, no, I didn't tell you that. Like, if you can't do it, but if you keep on pouring to your cup empty, hell, now you messed up. So,
Right. Right.
and they'll keep saying, I could be driving 10 hours, and then somebody asks me for a ride, and I say I'm tired. Now I got to be arguing with you because I'm tired. It's like, no, now I'm just turning my phone off.
Right.
I said no. If I do nice things for you, and I'm saying no, I'm saying no for a reason, or it could be no reason at all. I gotta get some peace too.
Absolutely. Well, I do know for certain that, protecting your peace is all about boundaries, you know, and I
It
think the
is
disrespect is more of an intent. Silence doesn't always mean hate. It just means that you're healing, you know. So,
exactly.
but my thing is certain people or certain family members won't see it that way. They will feel they're gonna look at it
They
as
won't.
if you think you're better than someone else. And it's sad, it's sad to
You
say
hit it
that,
right
but
on the
that's how some
head.
people look at it.
Yeah,
You know, have you
You hit it
experienced
right on
that?
the head because I've experienced that. And
Right.
it's I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't think I'm better. I just want better. I want a different outcome. We all got different walks and paths and visions that God gave us.
Right.
Yours is different from mine. So we not gonna see eye to eye all the time, and we not on the same journey. You're connected to me through blood or, whatever encounter that brought you into my, space and stuff like that. But I might need to unplug a little more.
Right.
Or,
Right.
like I didn't really know how to be selfish. But when I told you I wrote my younger self that 5-page letter, you know, okay, I'm okay with spending, more time alone now because it gives me more time to keep discovering who I am, keep showing up for myself, and I'm going to get more things done because I don't have all these distractions and people say I'm being mean or I'm being selfish when I'm really just trying to pour into myself. And to that degree, you do have to be selfish because if you keep giving yourself and everything away to everybody else, how are you ever going to get to where you're trying to go? You got
Right.
to be selfish at some point.
You're right. But also too, people got to understand that sometimes it's okay to agree to disagree. You know, it's okay to
It
disagree.
do.
But like I said, most
And you
families
could
won't
do it
see it that way
respectfully.
because they're
That's
gonna
the part
feel
that they
that.
don't get.
Say it again. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said, and you can do it respectfully. They feel like when they disagree, it's like you got to curse out, you got to be disrespectful, you got to do low blows. I don't have to agree with you. And I was like, you know what? Because me and my sister, we would have disagreements sometimes. And I was like, you know what? It's going left. Let's talk about something else. Or I love you. We're going to talk tomorrow. Or we'll start talking about something else. It's like once you can recognize it and you see it, it's like, look, sis, we not seeing eye to eye on this. I don't want it to go left, but it's going there. So let's stop right now.
Right.
But I don't want to, go back and forth with different people that I love and care about with nobody really.
So it's kind of funny that you said that because the next question I had for you was, why do some parents or siblings expect loyalty without ever giving love?
Because of blood. And unfortunately, blood sometimes be the ones that do you in the most.
Yeah.
They the
Yeah.
closest one to you. They know everything about you. They know how you move. They know how your heart is set up. They know if you have a lack of boundaries and you always, well, she gonna curse us out, but she always tell us yes. And that was me.
Right.
They could be stranded in Kalamazoo. I'm gonna curse you out. Well, how you get there? Who was you with? You did you know them and stuff like that. But then I'm still going to get them. But it's like if I'm always coming to the rescue, then how do you ever learn from your mistakes? I mean, it's amazing to have a dependable person in your life that no matter what, you can always call on them. Because I'm the type of person like even if you make me mad or we're not friends no more, and you going through something, or I said I was gonna do something, I'm still gonna honor what I said and I'm still gonna do it for you. I'll be like, I ain't effing with you right now, but I said I was gonna do XYZ, so here. But after this, I don't want to talk to you for a while or whatever until we can sit down and we can come to, some type of agreement, or we just gonna have to fall back for a minute.
Right. So how do you think adult children heal from parents who never apologize? And before you answer that, I know you said that uh, you having some issues with your parents, and
Mhm.
how does that tie into the situation that you was having?
Okay, so with my mom, like I said, when we were younger, she had a drug addiction problem, but I still loved her, but it was traumatic as hell. Like I used to be going to look for her. She would be missing. It was just a lot of things that come along with, drug addiction and stuff like that. But that was still my mom. And, a lot of ways too, I just felt like I was trying to buy her love. It was like I wanted to see her, I wanted her attention or whatever. And, she was caught up in her mess and stuff like that. But
Right.
and for my dad, I wanted him to be around. When I would see people with their dads or kids getting picked up or somebody saying they daddy did something, I wish my dad was there to do that with me. Like when I was in grammar school, I got a writing, award from the NAACP. Nobody was there for me. You know what I'm saying? I was doing a lot of great things and nobody was there. And I was like, dang. So that started made me thinking something was wrong with me. But the more I just, kept trying to do what I needed to do and all these things were happening for me or whatever, I had to make peace with just loving my parents where they was at. Maybe they was going through something that they
Right.
never talked to me about, like I said, or whatever. And I just loved them at the point that they can give the love. And I wanted to continue to grow as a person. And I knew when I started, you know, meeting people out here, when I started having children in relationships that I was cultivating, I'm a lover, so I'm gonna always lead with love. So I just poured out more of what I wanted and was just hoping and expecting that I was getting it back in return from genuine people. So it was like everything that I lacked, I gave more of. Like
Right.
I wanted, you know, people to be nice to me, so I was nice too. I mean, it was genuine, but it was like those were the things that I always led with: integrity, honesty, like all that stuff. And I just want to be surrounded by that.
Right. Right. That's understandable.
You are now watching Situations, the podcast,
tuned in to
where nothing
your
is
number
off
one
limits.
So let me ask you this. Do you think healing
Hmm.
mean walk away from the family? So, you know, when you're trying to process everything that you've been through and, you know, you're just trying to get your thought process together. You know, is it okay to walk away from family at that particular time?
Yeah, and I did.
Yeah.
And it hurted, but it was like I know if I kept, like, they be having family dinner sometimes or whatever, and I don't go to everything. Sometimes it just be due to my health. You know, everybody be having a good time, but they be drinking and smoking and stuff going around or whatever, and I don't really be around it. And I'm like, if I got pneumonia or, you know, I'm just not feeling well or whatever, it's like I don't want to be around it. But it was like, you know, I just be wanting some peace and stuff like that too. And I remember, you know, when I, you know, sent out text messages and put my phone on do not disturb, and I didn't talk to nobody. Like I fasted. It was just me and God. I had to get back recentered. And
Right.
I felt some people were treating me like, you know, my health issues and stuff like that wasn't severe as it was, and they were still wanting me to show up. So I had to disconnect, and then I had to like show up for myself. And I was like, at this point, I don't care how whoever feel. Like I still want to be alive. I still want to be here, and I still want to be the healthiest that I could be physically, mentally, spiritually, and all of that or whatever. So yeah, I had to step away.
Right. And, you know, sometimes love from a distance, you know, you need that for your personal growth. You know, so
Yes.
sometimes it's okay to walk
Yeah.
away from family members,
Yeah.
you know, because,
And sometimes it make them appreciate you more once they see you ain't around no more.
right, absolutely. Okay, do broken family dynamics affect our ability to trust others?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, I agree with you because it's like let me see, how can I explain it? I feel like we build walls, we build walls instead of bridges. You know, and
Right.
sometimes we expect betrayal because that's the way
Yeah.
how we was raised.
Right.
If it makes sense, does that make sense?
No, I totally agree.
Okay,
I totally agree with that.
okay,
And I was gonna say I have definitely stayed in friendships, relationships, a lot of different relationships too long because of the norm of people did something wrong to me, people treated me wrong, people said something wrong. It got overlooked, it got swept up under the rug. And like, that's okay. I forgave them, but I still let them stay in my life. And so now it's like people will say I'm not healed because I'm more expressive now. I'm not suppressing my feelings. I'm talking about things. And I do forgive people because I want to continue to grow and receive what God got for me. But so they will say I'm not healed because I'm not letting these people have access to me. Why would I want to go back in the same place where vomit was or where a person hurt me at? It's like you showed me something different. I don't feel safe in that space no more. I look at you differently or whatever, even though if you could have apologized. But I don't want to keep giving people chances to see if they changed or not. I know
right,
what I got from the ending of it or however it went, and I don't want to go back there. To me, that is healing because it's like I'm saying, I learned my lesson. I don't want to go back.
right, right. I think I think right now we need to be talking to Cassie right now because
But see, but
apparently
the
she didn't.
normal say, forgive them and go back. And it's like, you know,
I
the
mean,
normal people, the people, the majority will say, well, that's your brother or y'all had history together. Go no. So guess what? The history or the friendship or the love should have then no disrespect should have been into play, right?
absolutely,
If those things had shown up.
absolutely,
So I'm saying some part of you showing me a part that make me feel unsafe, uncomfortable, or I don't want to be in that particular space with you no more, that means I healed because I'm saying I learned a lesson. Because guess what? When you didn't heal and you don't learn a lesson, what you do? That shit gonna keep knocking your ass over the head. Every time you turn around, it'll be you could talk to 5 different men or women. You will get the same personality traits and everything in this other person because you didn't learn a lesson yet. So you keep picking the same type of people. When you sit down, get centered, evaluate and analyze everything you went through, and you start noticing patterns and stuff and what you need to change in yourself, how you need to speak to yourself, how you need to carry yourself, different environments you need to be in, guess what? You will start making better choices in people in your life and everything around you.
Absolutely. 100%. I totally agree with you. So that kind of leads into the next question. The next question was, what's the hidden
Okay.
cost of keeping up and protecting the family image?
Stress, which could lead to death, suffering in silence, growth stunt, stunning your growth,
Yeah,
you just being miserable and not really reaching your full potential and showing up and being your best and your highest self.
absolutely. Emotional suffocation. That's what I call it. You're emotionally suffocating yourself,
Absolutely.
you know, and that's not
Yep.
that's not a good that's not definitely not a good look. Um,
It's not.
okay. Let me say this. Well, let me ask you this.
Hmm.
Why do some families resent the one
Okay.
who starts the healing?
Because they don't want to, people don't like the truth. And people don't want to take the scab off the wound. They would rather use vices like drinking, drug, and sex, or whatever they do to, ease it or like keep the scab on it. Once you take that band-aid off, it's going to get ugly. And then it's going to require them to have to face the truth. And then they're going to have to start taking some accountability, and they don't want to do that.
Right, right,
That's why.
right. I agree because this is what I said. I wrote down what but for this particular question, I wrote, because I think the healing threatens to.
Mhm.
I said the healing threatens the comfort of dysfunction. Your growth exposes what they're avoiding. Make sense?
Absolutely. That's what
Right,
I'm saying. You take that mandate off. Now some accountability got to be taken in place. Okay, well, I'm doing this. Okay, well, you still doing this. Why? What's
right.
prohibiting you from changing or choosing something different? Do you understand this? Because it's looking like you're comfortable. You know you're gonna have to get uncomfortable to grow, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. At some point in life, anyway, if you ever decide to make a
Yeah.
change,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
Okay. Let me say this. Do you think love can truly exist in a family without emotional safety?
I mean, if that's what you want to call it, it's connection. But truly say you being loved in the correct way, no. Because even when you're trying to chastise someone or you trying to correct them, if you correcting a person out of love, and this is where a lot of people get this misunderstood, construed, or whatever the words you want to use. A person to say, I hope you doing this because I don't like lazy people around me. That's condescending. That's putting somebody down versus saying, let me have a talk with you. I'm just trying to see where you at in life. Like, what do you want to do? Is it something that I could assist you with? Is it something that you want to know? Like, what plans do you have for yourself? Somebody may not have never even asked them that. Or, if a person is scared to try something new, to even have their reassurance to say, I'm here to support you. If there's any way that I can help you in the area, or let me see who I can call. I'll get back to you on that. Or I want you to write down 5 things that you want to do. And do you agree to holding yourself accountable? And I'll check back in with you at the end of the week to see if you did at least one or two things off that list. That's leading with love.
Right. So what are some signs a family was never together then?
Hmm.
What do you think are some signs that the family was never
They never
actually
show up
together?
for you. They never show up for you. Yeah, they tell them no show up for their own self. If you trying to, excel and grow and do some things, like you said, they say, "Oh, she thinks she better. He think he better, or whatever."
Right.
Um, they only call you when they want something. It's only, happy times when it's something that's in favor of, what they're trying to get, and they just okay with the dynamics of how the family is going, even though it's been stated that everything is not okay.
Right. And my take on that is, I would say, if I had to say and voice my opinion, I would say lack of communication, emotional neglect,
Yes.
unspoken pain,
Yeah.
favoritism,
Yeah.
uh, being in constant survival mode.
All of the above.
Right. Do you think religion sometimes enable family dysfunctions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because even with that, people pick and choose on what they want to take out of it. They could say, in Christianity, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not, all these things. But then when they kids is killing, or whatever word we want to use, unaliving people, whatever the case may be, you hide them, you protect them, and all of that. It's wrong.
Right.
But y'all letting them do it and get away with it. You letting them come into your house and hide the stuff, whatever they doing.
Right.
And you gonna stand up and defend them because that's my son and I love him, whatever. Baby, your son just unalived somebody else's son. How they supposed to feel? So
Yeah, you're
it's
right.
only right when you in protective mode, but then when it happens to yours, baby, call everything out. We going all out. No, are you gonna be fair or unfair? It's got to be fair and just for every situation, not only when it's pertaining to your family.
Right. So do you think choosing peace over family, do you think that's betrayal?
Absolutely not. Because guess what? If you've been in this family, and like you said, there's a lack of communication, there's dysfunction, there's favoritism, there's all these things in here, and you already feeling like the black sheep. You already feeling like, they taking digs at you and all this stuff, whatever. You are betraying yourself by staying in this, especially when you have expressed your concerns, how you feel like you being, left out, or, the black sheep or whatever it may be or whatever. Then you're gonna have to hold some accountability for yourself and say, I need to be around some love because this ain't it. This just
Absolutely.
blood. This is a connection. But
Right.
I don't feel no love over here.
I know that's right, because one thing for certain, choosing yourself, that's what you call survival. You have to choose yourself over anything other. You know, anything outside of that
Right.
it makes no sense if you choose to stay in a dysfunctional, whether
Right.
it's a relationship
Yeah.
or whether it's
I mean, no. I think
family
when you choose
oriented.
yourself, that's not survival, that's growth.
Say it
When you
again.
choose to stay in a dysfunctional anything, I said, because you were saying when you choose yourself, that's survival. I said when you choose yourself, that's growth. When you choose
Right.
to stay in dysfunctional stuff, now you back in survival mode.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why is it so hard why do you think it's so hard to say my parents hurt me? When kids or young adults are in these type of situations, why do you think it's so hard
hmm
for them to make that statement? Why do you think they shut down in situations like this?
Because for one, they wanted to love their parents. For two, they probably got the hell beat up out of them. Anytime they want to say something, they never had a voice. They was never able to express their opinion, no matter what age they were. And they haven't healed from it. And so they're still talking and speaking and feeling from a trauma standpoint of that 8-year old without a voice when it
Right.
comes to their parents.
Well, I really hope what we spoke about today, can help someone. And for
Yeah.
those of you that's tuned in, if you feel this can help someone, the topic that we talked about today, man, by all means, share it with them. You know,
Right.
um, like I said, I just really hope someone can take something from what we talked about today. And
Me
what we're
too.
gonna do is, I got one more question I want to bring to the table, and then we're gonna conclude
Hmm.
today's show with this last question. Okay.
Okay.
So, what does it? What does true generational healing look like?
First, acknowledging that there's a problem and maybe writing down how you feel about it, trying to seek some help, whether it's therapy, journaling, going to some groups, being able to find a safe space and others that you can talk about it, doing some research and finding information, actually doing things that make you feel better, and then even trying to go back to implement some of these things in your family or friends or whoever around to see if they're acceptable, and if they've noticed a change in you and be like, you know what, we really like what you've been doing. We didn't want to admit it, but you've been doing really great or whatever. And something's got to be working.
Right. Mm.
I just think sometimes you got to start with yourself first, and once you find things that you can set in place as far as your healing is concerned, and then you start being an example for others. You start pointing to others. You start sharing what's working for you. And the ones that want to change, they'll gravitate towards it, and the ones that don't, they gonna deny it anyway.
Right. Okay. Well, I totally agree with that, and I think I think today's topic was a good topic to speak on. And like I said, I hope somebody was able to take something from
Me
what was
too.
said today, or either whether we said it or you heard something that was noteworthy from the clip that you saw. But once
Yeah.
again, Theon, I want to say I'm glad to see you back again. Glad you're feeling better, and you know
Me too.
your health is important. So we have to make sure that you take care of yourself and eat right and get the proper
Yeah.
rest. Stay on your meds or whatever it is that you got you taking.
Yeah.
You know, um,
Right.
just to stay here, just to stay strong. Stay healthy. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Okay.
Right. And that's the goal. And I'm saying, even though I don't post it, like I talk to a lot of different people every day. I've been through so many things, that's a part of my testimony and my journey, where I can relate to a lot of different situations that people are going in, dealing with. So I always have empathy and compassion, and in some instances have solutions or resources that can help. I want to do more of that. At some point, I do want to try to create some type of program. I don't know if it's going to be within my business or maybe trying to create a 501(c)(3, but I definitely would like to have a space. So if somebody have a facility available where maybe I can come in, we can sit down and talk to people, like what's going on in their lives. Why aren't they stagnant? Why aren't they moving forward? What do they want to do? Maybe we can, go over with some resume writing with them, or do a vision board, and they can actually see the goals and dreams that they once had or they still do, that want to bring those into fruition, and then maybe like give them a mini makeover. If we have someone that can maybe donate some food and stuff like that or whatever. So to me, like that's what I would like to do. I have been doing stuff. So I was, volunteering doing girls' hair for graduation and different stuff like that. I can offer, some free makeup services for some people, but I'm like, I just know how to lead with love. And if anybody have any events or anything that's going on that I can be a part of, where we can implement these things, like this is something near and dear to my heart. And yeah, I just want to help. So
Okay. Okay. There you have it,
mm.
y'all. Once again, I'm Kelvin, your host of Situations the podcast.
And I'm your co-host, Miss Deanna. So if you guys have any available information or anything I could be a part of, you can reach out to me on Facebook, Deanna Chester, or Instagram, Miss Deanna.
Okay.
Or you could leave us a message, in our Situations the podcast.
Right. And I appreciate you guys that tuned, stayed the whole entire show with us. But next week we have an amazing guest coming on next week, so make sure you guys tune in for that one because this is one you don't want to miss. I guarantee it. Next week, make sure you tune in. We have a special guest that's going to be joining us. And that will conclude our show for today. And we appreciate you guys tuning in. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. Peace.
See you next week.